Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2 9.7. What I usually do at this point is introduce the device so you know what this video will be about. But the only thing that I have to say right now is this device is an absolute killer. Not quite perfect, but still. If you want to know more about it, I would say watch the full review right now. So let's start off with the design and build quality size comparison as always first here with the iPad Air 2. As you can see, they are quite similar, but if we take a little bit of a closer look, you will see it is narrower, it is also shorter, and it is even thinner, which is really quite an accomplishment. The biggest difference here is about 50 grams in terms of weight, which the Galaxy Tab is actually lighter. A small comparison here with an 8-inch, as you can see, actually still very reasonably, because we have 1.7 inches more here. So in terms of size, it is really compact. I wouldn't wish for the bezels to be any smaller, because as you can see, you need something to hold on, because the device is already very thin, which makes it hard to grab onto anyways. But as you can see, really lightweight, really compact, all done nice. The only thing where I had a little bit of an issue were the buttons, where I'm not the biggest fan of, because I would usually like to hold on like this, and this is always where the back button is. So a little bit of a design flaw, I would say. Otherwise, I don't have an issue with the buttons, but it's hard to hold on. You would have to reach the other side, but then it's a little bit awkward because the speakers are on the other side. But that's a smaller thing. The bells are definitely nice. The material on the back is only plastic, I think, because it doesn't get cold or warm like aluminum, but it feels absolutely solid premium. It is slightly soft touch coated, gives you a nice grip, so I definitely prefer this material over something like aluminum, because it's lightweight and still doesn't feel cheap at all, because the whole device, as you can see, doesn't really bend. It's super thin, so it will bend a little bit, but it feels super sturdy and not really unsubstantial or anything at all. Really nicely done. About the ports and so on, here we have a SIM card tray, SD card tray. Here we have the volume rocker and the power button. They are a little bit almost too clicky and almost feel a little bit cheap, but at least they have a nice click and tactile feedback. The odd thing is they are really close, and for a tablet I really often wanted to hit the volume rocker and hit the power button or otherwise. So I would prefer if they would have been maybe a little bit more apart. On the back we have the camera, and here we have the two attachments for the optional keyboard, which I didn't have. On the top we see nothing, on the left side we see nothing, and on the bottom we can see the two stereo speakers, micro USB and the headphone jack. So to sum it up, in terms of build quality and overall design, they did a fantastic job. The only thing where I have a little bit of an issue are the buttons, because they were in the way, and the speakers, but I will get to those a little bit later. So let's take a look at the display now, which definitely is the highlight for me, because if we take a look at it right now here, it looks way more purple than it is in reality, because the whites are actually quite nice. They are slightly on the warmer side, which all AMOLED displays are, but it's still absolutely fine. The black levels, of course, are absolutely perfect. No way to improve them any further. Contrast ratio is amazing. And the colors, as you can already see, yes, they are oversaturated and not accurate or natural at all, but man, they pop, they are vibrant, they are vivid. Just a pleasure. Watching videos, of course, it is a little bit unnatural, but you get used to it a lot, because you get so much back from it with this great contrast ratio. And if you have, for example, bezels on the side, I mean black borders on the side, since the display is pitch black, you only see display, especially at night. I don't have an issue with that. I also like that we have a 4:3 aspect ratio, because it's great for content consuming both ways. Usually if you have a widescreen device, it's great in one way direction. This way it's great in both. It's also extremely bright. I only needed 35% of usual brightness to get a great view, and the viewing angles are absolutely killer stable. You won't be able to see it because of the glare. It is very glossy, but I don't have an issue with that. And of course it will attract fingerprints, but the display is absolutely a killer and can't really be improved at all. It was really impressive, super impressive. Let's check the sound. So my main issue is the positioning, because they are quite far apart, and whenever I played games or so, or held it just in landscape, I always blocked the lower one. The upper one is okay, but like you see, you only get like half of the sound, which is a little bit of a bummer. Not the end of the world, but what about the qualities itself? Maximum volume was nice. I would have wished for a little bit more, but in most cases was absolutely fine. It did distort though on the highest volume a little bit. There is a little bit of bass, mids are okay and the highs are quite clear, but overall it sounded a little bit echoey and a little bit hollow. Not a big issue, but still the sound is far from impressive, but even further away from being disappointing, so it is okay. Let's check the performance now. And first of all, I want to start with the Twitter app. As you can see here, absolutely killer smooth. And if I have to mention one thing here, it is the great performance. The performance is just brilliant. As you can see here, browsing experience was absolutely for that. As you can see, extremely buttery smooth, very responsive, absolutely fast, and even all my gestures got accepted very well. As you can see here, border gestures, no problem at all. So a very responsive, precise screen in terms of the performance, but games and apps are just great. As you can see here, very smooth. Let's go into that. Loading times are quick and it is buttery smooth. So the only thing that maybe isn't the best in terms of performance is Google Plus, because I think mostly because it uses more different tabs side by side, and it's quite demanding here. So you can see here is where we'll see a lot of stutter. It is sometimes a little bit better here because you only have 2 columns, and then it's a little bit less of stress for the CPU and the GPU, but the overall performance is great. Also multitasking worked really nice. The great thing is we have dual window, and in this case I actually used it quite a lot because it's really handy to use YouTube in one and dual window in the other, and you also have the slight small pop-up window. So in terms of performance, everything is great. And maybe you just saw it real quick when I had Riptide in the background running, it did get killed. This is something that just happens because still apps get killed in the background. In normal use it wasn't an issue for me. It was still quite satisfying in terms of multitasking performance, especially since the dual window performance was still very smooth. The games are a little bit of a two-edged sword because, as you can maybe see already, the game looks quite pixelated, and this is the issue for games like Asphalt 8, Real Racing, and as you can see here, Riptide. The game just looks like a phone app that is blurred, or I mean doubled up, so in terms of size it's bigger and therefore it looks very pixelated and blurry. On other games like maybe Dead Trigger or Dead Zombie or what it's called, it was fine because it uses the native resolution. But I think what they did here in these games is they just use half of the resolution, so 1024 by 768. Otherwise the performance was fine, little to no lag, little to no slowdowns, but very high frame rates. So in terms of performance, the gaming is very good, but in terms of visual qualities, not so much. Okay, let's get into the battery life now. First of all, the charging, it takes slightly more than 3.5 hours, which is a little bit much, but considering these days it's actually quite the average, but therefore it makes up for amazing battery life. My first run was at 40% of brightness and you can see 6 hours and 44 in 7 hours. But just switching down to 35% of brightness, which was still more than fine enough, I got values of 6 hours over the course of 1 day, 4 hours with just half of the charge. Once again here the same, but the great thing is 620 over 1.5, but it gets even better here. Almost 9 hours over 1.5 days. Here I got also 8 hours once again. 125 with just 8% used, which is crazy impressive because especially when you do a lot of videos, watch a lot of movies and so on, this is where this chip is very efficient, and maybe you can get with less than 10% an hour away. And even while playing games or doing anything else, we can see what I got right now with a high brightness. I am at 5 hours and 20 and used 75%. So as you can see, battery life is really impressive. So let's go ahead and check the software. I have to say, the one thing that I am a little bit disappointed, I didn't find the theme engine anymore that I saw on the SX Edge or SX Edge Plus or something like that. It is still TouchWiz, but it works absolutely fine. We get great bonuses like dual window, the pop-up window, In terms of the design, it looks absolutely fine. It is maybe a little bit cartoony in terms of the colors, but it does what it has to do. We still have Flipboard, but everything works fine. So I'm completely happy with what we get here on a tablet software, because the actual additions here like dual window were actually useful. It was quite bloaty in terms of apps. You can deactivate them if they are too disturbing, but I can live with that. I'm okay with the design because the software does a great job overall. So that's it for the device. Let's go and head and take to the recap. If you have skipped the in-depth part or maybe missed something, no problem at all. Here's the recap. In terms of design and build quality, absolutely brilliant, very lightweight, very compact, and still maintaining a premium feel. The only thing where I'm not the biggest fan of are the capacitive buttons, but I'm fine with that. The display is an absolute stunner, absolute killer. Amazing black levels, still nice white levels, slightly over the top saturated colors, but therefore very, very impressive. Nice viewing angles and a very bright panel. So, wow. Amazing display. The sound maybe not that amazing because it was a little bit echoey and shallow, but therefore loud enough, and it didn't sound bad at all. As I said, not impressive, but far from being disappointing. What isn't disappointing at all though is the performance, because that one is actually very surprisingly impressive. Very smooth, very fast, very capable in terms of multitasking. App switching worked quite fine. The RAM management wasn't as bad as it was on some of the Galaxy devices on the phones. Very nice. And also dual window worked quite nice. Pop-up window worked quite nice. Performance within apps, within the browser, absolutely top notch. The games were a little bit of a double-edged sword. Where the performance was still nice and smooth, it was the graphics quality in a few games like racing games that was just like half of it because of the lower resolution. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but I'm okay with that. The battery life, more than impressive. I got at least 7 hours out of it, and a few days later, maybe due to the app optimization that kicked in, even 9 hours of screen on time, because there was a thing like after 1 or 2 days, an app optimization pop-up got and said, you don't need these apps a lot, so we will just hibernate them and you will get better battery life. So maybe that's the reason why I got this better battery life after a few days, and I'm absolutely impressed with the battery life. Easy 2-day, 3-day, because also the standby drain was really great, like 8 hours, maybe like 1%, so that's top. In terms of software, I'm also really fine because it is very slimmed down. It still has the nice gimmicky or the less gimmicky features in terms of dual window, pop-up window, Flipboard is also there. The design is still a little bit of a matter of taste, but I'm fine with it because the enhanced capabilities, because especially something like multi-window on a tablet made a lot of sense to me. So my final verdict on this tablet is it is amazing, it's brilliant, and that is my favorite Android tablet so far. If it's better than the iPad Air 2, you will know if you maybe watch my comparison, but from what I can tell you so far, I would definitely, if I wouldn't already have the Air 2, go for this, because the overall qualities are just great. The display is stunning, battery life is great, performance was great. Not really much to improve. I would wish for maybe the buttons to go away. Other than that, the sound could be a little bit better, but the rest is top notch. Not really much you can improve anymore. The price or the value is absolutely on par with the iPad Air 2. So if you have to decide between those, of course it's always a thing if you want the Apple ecosystem or the Android ecosystem. But I am very used to the Android ecosystem, even though I have already an iPad with a lot of apps. But I would go for this because early this year I said Android tablet will this year finally be good enough. Not just to compete or be superior to the iPad Air 2, but to deliver an amazing experience overall for a tablet. This is exactly what I wish to get from a tablet. Great performance, great media capabilities and all that. So nothing more to add. I'm really impressed, which isn't always the case, or really not often at all. So I'm a little bit speechless. I'm not sure what else to say. I am impressed. Really impressed. So Samsung, you did a great job. Nothing to add here. Okay, this was my review of the Tab S 9.7. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Reshare it. And if you like this channel, please subscribe to it. Okay, until next time, bye.